Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing well out there today. Excuse me. I just landed in Chicago, so I'm in another hotel room, and I'm here to see my dad. And after I finish up this stream here, then I'm heading over to go see him this morning. But I do hope that everybody is well today. I've been calling basketball games. I called four in a row a couple days ago, so my voice, excuse me, a little bit hoarse. But good Sunday morning, another day of learning awakes us all. My name is John Register, and I am going to be going through my book, 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader, Journal Your Way to Leadership Success. I'm sorry, I forgot the book cover so I could actually share it with you this morning. As I packed yesterday, I just forgot it. I forgot it. But you can pick it up on my website, johnregister.com. Who am I? Uh, I ran track and field for the University of Arkansas. Go Pigs. Was a four-time track and field All-American. Went to the Olympic trials in '88 in the high hurdles. Went to the military right after that to continue to try to pursue my dreams of making an Olympic team. The Army has a world-class athlete program. I made this program, but on my way to the program, I wound up going to Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, served in the Gulf War for 6 months. I came back without a scratch, went to Presidio, San Francisco, switched from the 110-meter high hurdles to the 400-meter hurdles, qualified in my fifth race, finished up 17th in the Olympic trials in my sixth race, and then thought I could make another run at it, re-enlisted in the military, went to Germany, was lowering my times, ran my first sub 50-second hurdle race, and then came to begin my quest for the world-class athlete program again. Went across a hurdle when I was training in Hays, Kansas, dislocated my left knee, severed the artery behind my kneecap, and then 7 days later, I became an amputee, elected to become an amputee. So all of that to say, life can change with one wrong step. I retooled my wife, Alice. She said, we'll get this together. It's just our new normal. And we began to reform, repackage, retool. And once I did that, I wound up making swimming for physical therapy, and I made a Paralympic team, Paralympic swim team. Paralympic Games are the parallel games to the Olympics. So even this year we'll have the Olympic Games, and then the Paralympic Games will come 2 weeks after. They are the parallel games. They're not the Special Olympics, which is another amazing organization. These are for athletes with physical disabilities and visual impairment, not cognitive disabilities. So then I saw athletes running and jumping with artificial limbs. I had a leg made for running. And just a few short years later, 4 years later, I wound up making the Paralympic team again, this time in track and field, and won a Paralympic long jump silver medal in Sydney, Australia. So that's kind of my story from that. But today I have something I want to share with you. 10 lessons we're going to start talking about in just a moment. Okay, so here's what this day is all about, and these lessons. I wrote a book as a professional speaker. I'm now. I work with business professionals to help them hurdle adversity by amputating fear, embracing a new normal mindset to win the medals in their life. And I had a chance to speak before I've been before 4 president organizations and administrations, and one of which was Secretary Pompeo. So I was invited by Secretary Colin Powell to be part of a disability advisory committee that continued on through Secretary Rice and then Secretary Clinton. And then it kind of skipped because we dissolved that. Then I went to Dubai to do some speaking and came back and was asked by the Secretary Mike Pompeo to come in and talk right before the pandemic on building cohesive and collaborative teams for all of our U.S. ambassadors. And when I was in the room that day, we have half of our U.S. ambassadors are career people and half are appointees. And so there was kind of it wasn't like a division, but there was some angst in the room because COVID was running rampant in some parts of the world, where in other parts of the world it was not at that point. It hadn't spread around this pandemic. So during this time, we were being asked to leave some countries. Some of the U.S. ambassadors were asked to get their people with other countries and ambassadors and go back home, while other parts of our team, our ambassador team, were getting marching orders like, we don't even know if this is real right now. We don't know what's going to. We don't know what's happening. We don't know if it's coming to our shores. But they couldn't even get their people back through countries like France and Germany because those countries were shutting down. So my question was, how do we lead in times like that? And so that was my task to share. And I began with some thoughts that I had. And in this thing, I decided that one of the things we have to do is we have to tell story. Stories are things that connect us. They're the fastest way for us to have connection with other people, because a lot of things happen in our minds with story. So that's what I did. I wrote this book, 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader, Journal Your Way to Leadership Success, because these were stories I usually do not share from the stage. And I began to put them into a framework so these ambassadors could have a quick story. So after you read the book, after they read the book, they would have 10 of their own stories, because you read a story and then I give you an action step of how to create your own story with inside the book, things to consider. So after you read the book, you have 10 of your own stories that when crisis comes, that when things hit you in a hard way, you now have 10 stories of your own. So that's why I wrote the book. It's now in paperback form, and other people can get it, but I just want to right ahead of the pandemic to get this in front of their hands. So we're going to go through each one of these. There are 10 of them. And the first one that we're talking about today is what is written here. And that is how to bring atmosphere into your environment. That's what it's called in the story. I've now since morphed that title, and it's how to bring oxygen into your atmosphere to thrive in your environment. So, what's the backstory on this? The core message really is the importance of breathing oxygen into an environment. So, here's what I mean. I was auditing a course um, in NASA. And we went over to this ginormous pool where the entire International Space Station is submerged underwater. Our instructors were talking about the apparatus and the whole International Space Station being submerged and how it was kind of in two parts to get it into the pool. And the reason for it being underwater is because the astronauts will work on the maneuvers that they're going to do outer space in the water, because it simulates very well what they're going to feel in outer space. And our instructors kept telling us over and over again that these astronauts are working in very harsh environments. And I was like, man, yes, of course. And I could see them. They were down there. They're stressing, and you can see the monitors they were hooked up to, and you can see the elevation of their heart rates and everything that was going on. But when we left the NASA, that big pool, the natatorium, or the buoyancy lab, I think they call it, and went back to the headquarters, I thought about it. I said, well, what makes the environment harsh on the human body? And it came to me that it's the lack of oxygen. Astronauts under the water or in outer space, if there's no oxygen, they can't work. And what happens if I lose oxygen in the environment? I saw in that pool, in the buoyancy lab, frog people who were in the water that would save the astronaut if they ran into trouble. Uh, and so as I began to think about that, if I don't have oxygen, I can't survive. And we were in a time when I'm thinking about this, about, right now, if I pull forward the pandemic or something that you might be dealing with, or in a stress that you might be going underneath, what happens is when we don't have oxygen, we might panic. And when we panic, we do irrational things because we don't have oxygen. We're not thinking straight, in other words. So for this phone that I have right here, if this phone floats in front of me or is falling down in front of me in the water, and I've lost oxygen and I don't think I can get to the top, and I become panicked because I think I'm going to begin to convulse and breathe, take a breath underneath the water, I might reach out to this phone to try to save me. Lifeguards are taught to approach a person if they don't have an apparatus to pull them to safety, uh, to approach a person from behind to pull them to safety. The reason for that is if you approach them from the front and a person's in a panic situation, they'll pull onto you, they'll latch onto you, and then two people have a bad day. So when we lose oxygen from our environment, we don't do things that are rational. And so this chapter talks about that story, and a story that's kind of funny story that goes along with it of of um, of me being in an airport and having this guy jump into the overhead bin. But I won't go into the story. You can get it and read it for yourself. What I wanted to do is really begin to get you to understand that all of us are designed to have oxygen placed into us. We breathe oxygen. Our Creator gives us life. So it's pretty inherent upon us to breathe that life out to other people. Uh, that's what I think. The Latin around inspiration is called inspirare. Inspirare is a Latin word of inspire, which means to breathe into. So I believe that each one of us is to breathe life into other individuals, other people. The emphasis that while the environment might seem static, the introduction of positive life-giving energy can transform that significantly. So use this as an analogy that humans need oxygen to survive under the water or in outer space. And so now we have to take our atmosphere with us because the environment really hasn't changed. Under the water hasn't changed too much, right? We're still H2O, and in outer space, there is no oxygen. So we have to breathe, have a chamber to breathe. And then that chamber is our environment. So we can then make this analogy serve to underscore the necessity of being proactive about energy we bring into our own environments that we might be struggling in. So there might be a work environment, there might be a job environment, there might be a family environment, there might be a friendship environment. Something about the environment is there, and maybe that we are getting into this new environment and we don't know how to shift. So how do we do that? We need to find ways to bring our atmosphere and fill it with oxygen so that we can survive in the environment that we have. So maybe this is something that is around analogies around stabilizing in uncertain waters, and there's a lot of different sectors that I speak to that I share around this concept of adding oxygen to an environment. And I just want to share a couple of them with you so that you might be able to see where you might be able to place them in your life. The first one is around risk management and adaptation. So I've done some work with insurance companies. And so when I work with insurance companies, we're talking about an ever-changing landscape where they're navigating through, uncertainty, and they must ensure their organizations are adept at managing risk and adapting to new regulations or maybe new technologies, new market demands, all these things that are going on. And that can take a toll because it can take our oxygen away. We can start saying, oh, we just did it last year like this. But the rules have changed. And so we're in a whole new space. So how do we continue to feed, oxygen in that environment? So we need, constantly monitor and the environment predicting and analytics or foresee future trends and flexibility in policy, offering a lot of customer needs, managing those needs effectively. So one of my clients was Lafayette Life, and the other one was Columbus Life last year. And I've done some others. And the foundation of the insurance company is trust. So you got to build the trust that's there. So that's one of the things of the incubators that you want to have for the atmosphere, to set the atmosphere. So if you don't have that, you can't even sell what you want. So leaders must cultivate an environment where trust is the oxygen, ensuring transparent, honest, and empathetic interactions with their customers. So we talked about a lot of that inside the presentation. And then, with another one, with Columbus, I think it was, we did the innovation and digital transformations that are going on as well. And this means leveraging maybe artificial intelligence that's coming up, and some of the things that we might be using, in the generative AI to help us move through life a little bit quicker, a little bit faster, to give us more ideas, and use it as a tool to help leverage how we might be able to serve our customers better, so they can enhance operational efficiencies, improve customer satisfaction, and stay ahead of the competitive market using generative AI. And so we talked about some of those things and how to embrace those and let them bring oxygen into our atmosphere rather than panicking around them and it going away and we're not thinking rationally. When we're not thinking rationally, here's something that happens. Um, Remember ahead of the pandemic, what were we doing in America? What were we doing in America that that we knew we were in a panic situation ahead of the pandemic? If you said we were buying toilet paper, that would be correct. What in the world? What in the world were we doing buying toilet paper? Was that going to solve COVID? We weren't thinking rationally. We were hoarding things. We said we were helping people. No, we were hoarding people. We were hoarding stuff. We were talking negatively about the people that were trying to save us, the folks in the hospitals. I was sitting next to a gentleman on the plane yesterday who got out of the business because he was burnt out by getting beat up by people talking so negatively about him trying to save lives in the hospital. He got overrun. And so that's how we don't want to take oxygen away from people and let them burn out. We want to add oxygen into their atmosphere so they can thrive in their environment. So the other one was around employee empowerment and culture, navigating the challenges of empowering employees by making them take oxygen. One of the things I was talking about with this another company in managing change dynamics was sometimes you have people that are inside of an organization who are entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, they have thousands of ideas of how to make something work. And if you have an entrepreneur, you can actually have them uh, uh, help you with find solutions. But you have to have a culture that's open and ready for that. Another one around this we have is I don't know one of managing this change is a culture that I was thinking about the one from insurance to banking systems. So banking systems, a lot of regulations as well. And so I speak to a lot of banks and credit unions. Difference between the two, there's a difference. And that is, have some of the same things of the regulations that come up, and we have but it's also a little bit finite on some of the things that they can do as well, but different, a little bit different, but sort of still the same. And then think about organizations that are going through a reorganization, organizations who are merging or being acquired. All those have space for turmoil and ways that oxygen might leave the environment, employees being laid off, or I report to somebody else that's new. So we have to pull in systems that create an environment or create an atmosphere so we can survive the changing, ever-changing environment. So I'll give you some action steps. First one is, if you don't have the book, go ahead and get the book called 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader, Journal Your Way to Leadership Success. You can do that. Find it on my website, johnregister.com. And we'll be next week at 6 a.m. in the morning, Mountain Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So engage with the content. Encourage everybody, yourselves, to sign up for the newsletters we have. We have some newsletters going out. And then go to the website. And then as we prepare for the next session is going to be on entitlement. This will be a fun one. We're going to talk about. I'm going to try to get a video in on an old Nike commercial that was pretty funny, and I thought about it until I won the silver medal, and I was like, oh man, I'll think about this different. So thank you for being on today. I appreciate everybody. Just only going to be on for 20 minutes. And we're just going to talk about the book. I was a little bit late today because I couldn't get my camera going. So I had to, sometimes you got to cut the computer off and cut it back on so that you give the computer some atmosphere to survive its environment. It's important on this discussion on entitlement is to kind of get the chapter and read it ahead of time, and come on next week. All right. This is a very light show. I'd love to hear your comments and see your comments in the comment section. I know it's on a Sunday morning. I'm about getting ready for my service. And the final thing I wanted to say is we have a mantra that we talk about, which is go forth, inspire your world, which means go is your command, forth is your direction, inspires your vocation and world, because only you can do this work in your sphere of influence. Go get the book 10 Power Stories to Impact a Leader. Journey your way to leadership success. If you already have the book, great. We'll read chapter number 2 in entitlement, and we'll talk in depth, and I'll answer any questions that you have from the author's perspective. Have a great day, everybody. Go forth, inspire your world. Bye for now.